Hello, this is Dr. Alan Weidner from Massage Chair Relief, and this is our inadvertent part two of our two-part interview with Justin Milne, expert massage chair technician. Justin, welcome again.
Thank you.
Thanks for being so gracious to come back. Last week while we were doing this, my internet went out and it kind of messed up the whole recording, so we had to cut it off, and that'll be posted. That has been posted on our YouTube channel and our Facebook page, but the podcast version has not been posted. That'll be posted, I believe, tomorrow for part one, and then we will get this one edited for part two. But for those of you who are watching, or for those of you that are attending, welcome back. Sorry about the confusion last week. Just technical difficulties, as they say. But anyways, the last thing we kind of finished up on were the failure rates that we talked about, and that's the rate that a chair will break down. And we learned from Justin that it's not just, there's other things that can come into play with the failure of your chair, not just something breaking from overuse, even though overuse is probably one of the biggest things. Would you agree, Justin?
Yeah. Yeah. As far as parts failing. Yeah.
But it's not just overuse. It's overuse because of weight, overuse because of how long you're sitting in the chair. We talked about a duty cycle last week, which is the typical cycle of a chair for a program to run, and then what it's built for, and then your suggestion to give it a rest after that first cycle, so that the components don't heat up and expand and start grinding and making noises and wear down prematurely. But we also talked about some other interesting things, and if I've forgotten some of them, bring them up again, Justin. I know that in review, the parts, the quality of the parts can affect the failure rate.
Yeah,
if the chair is made in a cheap factory or with cheap components, that can increase your failure rate.
Right.
And also, we talked about rodents and mice nests and things like that. And these rodents will tend to. Oh, that's you. Okay, those are rodents that will tend to hibernate or hang out underneath a chair because it's warm. So, anyways, maybe what other factors can affect failure rates, Justin?
As far as this, just besides like just wear and tear, or are you talking?
Is there anything else that comes into play? Anything else that comes into play affecting failure rates?
Yeah, as far as failure rates go, I would say the biggest is usage would be the biggest, and then the way the climate that it's in, that sort of thing. If it's kept, in an area that's got heating and AC that keeps it at a constant temperature. What else is there? Yeah, I would say rodents is another one, whether or not there's stuff living in it. Pets is another one. If you've got a pet that sheds a lot and that hair gets in, I don't think that has as big as effect as some of the other things, but I have had issues before with zipping off zippers.
Yeah.
I've had, a lot of pet hair and stuff that picks up, or pet dander. Those are probably the main things, though.
Stan had mentioned that when he moves chairs, we move chairs from time to time.
Yeah.
And he says there's so much crumbs and hair and just foreign material that falls down between the armrests and the pillows. Do those things ever tend to fall into the mechanics or the mechanical parts, or does
not usually? No, they usually stay pretty clear. And the way that the chairs work, I mean, you'll find stuff. I'll find chairs that are more dirty than others, but if you're cleaning it and wiping around it, you're usually pretty good. The biggest thing that I see probably the most common is just the dust on the back of them. It doesn't affect them, but almost every chair that I go to is the back shroud, like for the cover on the back, has got quite a bit of buildup on dust on it. It's just because it falls down and accumulates there.
And I would suspect if there's dust accumulating on the outside of the chair, there's probably some dust accumulating on the inside as well.
Yeah, you may get a little bit, but they're pretty sealed as far as the mechanical stuff goes. It's pretty sealed up, so there's not a lot that gets in there.
How often now? There's different components that can fail, right? We've got the roller mechanism, which is probably one of the more common things because that's the thing that's most stressed during the use of the chair. But the motherboards and sister and brother boards, those things can also be affected or it can fail. And even though they're not really mechanically oriented and mechanically driven, the electronics, what kinds of things affect the electronics? Because sometimes people just say, yeah, this feature just stopped working, and it's definitely a programming feature. What causes stuff like that to happen?
Well, usually what I'll see on chairs is like a motherboard that goes out or something. They'll call and say that something's not working. Those motherboards, so power comes into the chair and then goes to what we call a main PCB or main, computer board. And from there it separates and it controls the motors, and then it receives and sends signals back and forth to the console or the remote, if you want to call it that, or there's lots of different ways that the chairs can be operated, but it sends communication back and forth. So, and then it tells what parts of the chair to run and controls like the air valves, that sort of thing, solenoids. So that board is constantly communicating, but I don't replace a lot of them. I mean, there's not a particular chair that I can think of off the top of my head where it was a common problem in order to, we had to replace it a lot.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. We do see that happen with customers, not just locally, but in our other stores too, where a chipboard will go bad. And I don't know what affects that. I don't know why it is. I don't know, again, if that's maybe made from a cheaper component or what, but of course we don't see that as much as we do other things like the actuators. Can you explain what an actuator is? I know we've got one for the footrest and one for the chair back. What is an actuator?
So there's a couple ways that it's driven. Most of them are worm driven, but it just spins, and then that's what adjusts. So like it'll adjust like the footrest on the chair, or it'll tip it back to the zero gravity position, but those are actuator motors that are in, but most of them are worm driven.
What do you mean worm driven? What does that mean?
So they're a spiral shaft that spins, and it just changes the position on the shaft. And then what happens is that motor will measure where it's at in position. And so it knows where to go. It'll have sensors in there that detect where it's at. Okay.
So the actuator is something that is a piece of equipment that's used to elevate or decline the ottoman, and the same with the chair back, right? That's the thing
it's what moves the chair into its different positions.
Okay. Now, there's other things like airbags and like remote controls that go bad. I don't remember seeing a lot of airbag problems, but lately I've been seeing more of them, like airbags that go bad. What is that? Is it like a balloon that pops, or what goes wrong with an airbag?
No, most of the time what happens is they're sealed on the edges, and those edges the edges will break or they'll leak. And so I see that's common. The other thing that's common is where the air hose plugs into it. Eventually that section will kind of, over time, and this is usually a long time down the road, but sometimes they'll start to break. It's a weak spot. And they'll, start to leak air there. So you'll notice some air leakage. Most of the time though, that I see air is typically in the hoses. So what's that?
Is that kinked hoses or just the hoses rot?
I'll have kinked hoses or hoses that are disconnected. Hoses over time that have, rubbed, that'll have, a little hole in it or something that'll allow the air to leak out so that it's not pressurized.
Is that usually because it pinches, or is it because it's old and brittle?
No, most of them, I don't see. I mean, I see some pinches, but usually that's on new installs. I don't see a whole lot of pinches that happen over time. Usually what happens over time is the hose will rub, because it's moving, the chair's moving back and forth. And eventually what will end up happening is it'll rub enough against it to where, because it's just a rubber tubing. And so it'll wear a little hole in it or something. It'll start leaking air. So people will call and say that the air pressure is not the same. And then we'll, figure it out. We just replace a section of those.
Yeah, I've heard that quite a bit. That's a common one with the loss of air pressure.
Yeah.
And usually it's pronounced because it's on one side more than the other.
Right.
So
yeah, they can
really, really feel the difference.
Yeah.
What about another fellow asked about air pumps and the valves? Do they fail very often?
I don't replace a whole lot of valves and pumps. I mean, I can count on usually one hand what I do as far as pumps go in a year, and that's probably the same for valves. So
Okay.
a valve, it's just a solenoid that opens and closes. And so what happens is the pump's pumping air into the solenoid, and then the solenoid will receive a signal from that control board, or that PCB that we're calling. It'll receive a signal to open up and allow air to go to the feet, and then it'll close that one and then allow air to go to the shoulders, and it just rotates around. So but yeah, valves, I don't replace very many of them, probably a few every year, and that's it.
Okay, that's good. That's good to know. I did not know that. I don't think I've ever heard of an air pump being replaced. That doesn't mean it doesn't happen. It's just that of the ones that I'm aware of that we pay for, we don't see that a lot. Neither the valves.
Yeah, not a common part.
Now, another question is the availability of spare parts. I have found, and correct me if I'm wrong, Justin, if someone gets a chair from someone, like they have it handed off to them, or they buy it from somebody, or they inherit it or whatever, sometimes it's very difficult for them to get parts from the distributor because they're not registered as an owner of the chair with the company. So they have a lower priority. I don't know if that's the case with every massage chair company, but have you seen this? And I know you're a technician. When you call, they'll answer you. They'll tell you. They'll give you what you need.
Yeah. For the most part, they do have, though. There are companies out there that are cracking down on this, as far as secondhand chairs and that sort of thing go, trying to minimize or help their customers, so that they're taking care of the customers that are first priority on that.
Yeah. So
but that's not all companies. That's not all companies. There's lots of companies out there that you can get stuff, but and parts availability during COVID was rough. Now it seems to be like there's most parts that are still out there and that are available. So it seems like that inventory's bounced back.
Are most of the companies, and this is not necessarily your wheelhouse, but do most of the companies have sufficient parts? Do they usually keep a really good inventory?
Yeah, they're pretty good. I mean, for the most part, unless the chair is extremely old, or the company's gone out of business, which we talked about last time.
Yeah.
They're usually pretty good to, we're pretty good to source parts from.
Now, we were talking about the linen wearing out, which is the material that's between the rollers and your body. Oh, sorry. There we go. Sorry about that. The barrier between your body and the rollers is a thin piece of nylon linen or whatever.
Yeah, there's two. So there's two of them. There's the inner cloth, that's the zip in, and then there's the back pad, which is the cushion that's between. So yeah, between the actual rolling, there's two little pieces. There's two fabrics.
And can someone, do you suggest someone get like maybe buy a couple of extra ones when they get a new chair, that maybe they could have some extra those zip in linen liners, or do you think that's not?
I think you'd be storing them for a long time before you needed them.
Okay.
So,
well, again, with the same thing with failure rates, if someone's using the chair every day for a couple of hours and they're bigger bodied, that linen will wear out. I mean, it's going to wear out pretty quick.
Eventually. Yeah.
And as we talked about last time, when the linen goes bad, that becomes something that entangles into the roller mechanism, and that can create a real mess.
It can, for sure.
If you get it quick enough, no damage. But if you don't, that can ruin the roller mechanism completely, right?
Yeah, it's something that I would have checked on a regular basis.
And of course, everybody can look at that. They just lift up the back pad or put your hand underneath behind the back pad, and you can feel the linen. And if the integrity of the linen is still good, you're good.
Yeah.
But if the linen's shredded.
Well, and you can check too, get a flashlight. You can check. Usually the first sign you'll see holes. So you'll start to see wear, and then you'll start to see small holes, and then eventually those holes spread because those massage mechanism arms and the rollers come in contact with that.
So maybe waiting to feel if it's shredded might be too late even. So,
you want to, I would take a flashlight would be my recommendation. What I'll usually do when I go out to a place, customer's house, I'll take a flashlight, and I'll just unzip one of the sides so I can see that inner cloth, and I'll just trying to make sure that it looks good on both sides. I'll look inside, externally and internally.
Okay. Well, that is an important thing. And, I don't ever think about checking the ones at the showrooms, but but we certainly have seen ones that have done major damage to roller mechanism. Now the roller mechanism, now I think we talked about this last time as well, but as far as expense, what are the most expensive things? I think we said the roller was one of the most expensive things, right?
Yeah, I mean
the roller mechanism.
The whole mechanism is, and they're going, like I was saying last time, they have partial max and full max, but now they're going with these 3D and 4D motors. The massage max are all one piece, so there's usually not a partial anymore. But I see them from a few $100, $200-300 up to $1,200. I'd say maybe $1,500 for your most expensive.
Yeah. So those components, like the roller mechanism, with these new split track chairs, and I'm sure you've worked on some of those already. What makes those difficult to work on? I know some guys in some of the techs that in our store areas don't even want to mess with them or are afraid to mess with them.
So you're talking a chair that's got two massage mechanisms.
Yeah, and it's got the L track kind of splits in the middle, so it can flatten out.
So the difficulty is replacing a mechanism in them, because you've got to remove one to remove the other. So you've got to pull in order to remove the bottom mechanism. You've got to pull the top mechanism out. So it's just double. You just got to double duty the work is what it is.
And I guess you could say double the problems that could happen with it as well.
Yeah, but there's advantages too, because they don't run the full track, so they're working less. So if you've got two mechs, that are doing the work, they're splitting the work amongst each other. And so the nice thing is on a massage is you're getting massaged in two different spots. You can have one underneath on your glutes, and you can have one up on your upper backs massaging your shoulders.
Right.
So that's the difference between them. But yeah, it is, as far as problems and stuff like that go, but they are splitting the workload. So I don't see very many repairs. That being said, they haven't been out there that long either.
Yeah, the technology is pretty recent.
Yeah, it's fairly new.
Now, do you ever have a situation where a roller mech goes bad, but the whole roller track needs to be replaced?
No, I can count on one hand the number of tracks I've replaced in my entire career.
That's good to know.
So the tracks are not there. Yeah, I usually don't repair any tracks, hardly ever.
Do you ever suggest people lubricate? Now, we always have told people the chairs are self-lubricated.
Yeah.
They should last years. What's a situation where you might need to use what's that, white lithium grease?
Yeah. So, there's a couple of situations where I would, lubricate them. One, if I'm replacing them, I'll re-lubricate it when I go through it. If it's picked up a lot, like we talked about with pet hair and stuff, if there's a lot of debris that's gathered on it, then I'll clean it off and put some new grease on there. But they use a high temperature grease, and it's not getting hot enough. All it's doing is helping it move freely up and down the mech, and then it's keeping, like the gears, so that they're not getting stuck or broken or anything.
Okay. Now, someone just asked a question. What do you mean by usage?
What do I mean by usage?
Yeah, when we use the term usage, that's just the amount of time that you're
what you're using it. So if you're running a program on it, let's say it's a 40-minute program, then the duty cycle would be to let that sit for 40 minutes after that program's ran. So you're not doing back-to-back programs.
And this was something we talked about. And you and I first broached this subject a few weeks ago, and I'd not even heard of the duty cycle. The duty cycle is something that should be annotated on somewhere on the chair, so you know what the duty cycle is, which means the duty cycle is how long the chair is built to run, which is usually up to 30 minutes. And then when you have gone through a cycle, one of those duty cycles, you should ideally let that chair sit for the same amount of time. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's the rule of thumb on that.
And I always thought, well, you just use it a couple times, then, maybe give it a rest, maybe 10, 15-minute rest. But it seems, I didn't know you needed to let it sit that long and that frequently.
Yeah. Well, it just lets everything cool back down again. So,
yeah.
But yeah, when we're saying usage, like in most chairs, if you can't see, some of them will have on the back or on the that pan that I'm talking about in the back, that cover, some of them will have it on there, and it'll say that it's a, you know, a 30-minute duty cycle or something. It'll say that. If not, the rule of thumb, I would look at the programming and see what the max programming is, and then run the chair off of that. So say it's got a 45-minute massage, then, you know, use the chair for 45 minutes and then let it rest.
Yeah. And most chairs are 30 minutes now. There's a few less and a few, not many are that I've seen are 45 minutes. I mean, for one program. But that's a good advice. I never knew that about the duty cycle, and I've been in this business a long time. I didn't know about it, so I appreciate you teaching me about that.
Yeah.
Now, one customer asked, which brands and models are the most reliable?
That's a tough one. There are chairs there's chairs that I like as far as the massage goes that are in every single, you know, company or brand. So, to answer his question on that one, I would say you get what you pay for.
Yeah.
So if you go and spend, you know, and it doesn't have to be, you don't have to go and buy a $12,000 chair to get a good massage. You know, a $5,000 chair might be the ticket for you. Yeah. And that might give you the best massage. And so I always tell people, you know, don't base it off of what the price is as far as the massage. Go try them, see which one gives you the best massage, and then go from there on it. But I have my favorite chairs that I like that, you know, that give a good massage. But I don't have anything like, there's not one particular brand or something that I could say I would, you know, get this chair. It's less frequent as far as breakdowns and stuff like that goes.
Okay. So, and that's a tough question to ask because like every company's got maybe a cheap chair and an expensive chair and typically made with better components. Now, we broached this subject a little bit last time. When you have, and you say you've worked on all kinds of chairs, not just the premium chairs, you've worked on cheaper chairs too. Yep. When you see, when someone reaches out to you, and I don't even know if those cheap chair companies, usually they're off-brand names. I don't even know if they hire technicians. I think, I don't even know if they actually have in-home repairs.
No, most of them are like a throwaway.
Yeah, we call them disposable chair. But have you worked on any of these $2,500 chairs, $2,800 full feature chairs that, you know, that are being advertised as couched in an advertisement that says you're paying way too much for these other chairs. You can get this chair for $2,500 or $2,800. It has the same stuff as the other chairs, and you're getting ripped off. What would you say to that?
So my biggest concern would be who the manufacturer is.
Yeah.
So if the parts are available or not available, because that's one of the things that I try to do before I go out to do a service call, especially if they're calling me and saying, hey, we're not under warranty. We want you to come out and look at it and see what we can do for this chair. Then I kind of want to know and do a little bit of research to know what I'm dealing with or what I'm getting into, like whether or not I can find parts or, you know, that sort of thing. So that's probably the biggest thing, is find a reputable company, you know, that's selling them, and then a reputable company that, you know, that's going to be in business. You know, I mean, you never do know exactly how long a company's going to last, but, you know, something that's been around for a long time and they're proven and tried. Because I get that phone call a lot where, hey, I bought a chair on the internet and it doesn't work now. Can you come look at it? And I try to go through troubleshooting just in my head to think, okay, what would it need? And then is that something that's available? Is that something I can get my hands on or not?
Yeah. And do you have trouble getting a hold of those companies for parts?
All the time. Some of them just lead to one dead end after another.
Yeah.
And some of them will lead to distributors. So there'll be a Chinese-based company, and they'll have a distributor here, but the distributor doesn't have any parts. All they're doing is distributing chairs.
So you have to wait for parts to come from China then,
if you can get them. And
if you can even get them.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is what you're talking about right now is such a crucial thing, and we preach this to people as we educate them about chairs, but cost is such a drug for people, a price. When they get a low price on something and they see slick marketing or nice looking advertising,
Yeah.
You know, people need to understand you in this industry, you do get what you pay for. And if you're paying cheap dollars, it's not because you're skipping the middleman or because you got your direct from the factory. That really is very much irrelevant. It's because they're getting the chairs made in a cheaper factory with cheaper component, and the chair is cheaper.
Well,
But,
and then and like I said with the distributors, there's there's ones that are here locally that have parts and stuff, and there's ones that don't, and it's tough to try to figure that out. So,
well, and sometimes it's even hard to get parts for a reputable dealer and a big distributor that has a lot of models because so some companies, they buy chairs from different factories, right?
Yeah.
And that means they have to have all the parts for all the different models. And now some of the parts might be from the same models built in the same, or not same models, but models built in the same factory. So there might be crossover of parts. So it's maybe a little easier to maintain inventory. But if you've got 4, 5, 6 factories that you're buying from, that can create problems for parts inventorying in the long run, I would assume, and that's where some of the problems are.
Yeah, yeah. But most of them that are here locally that actually have parts here in the United States, they're usually, I can usually get a fairly quick answer on whether or not I'm going to be able to service and fix it.
Yeah.
So some of them, they may say, no, we have to order that and it's going to come overseas and come on a crate and it'll be here, in 2 to 3 weeks or whatever. But it's the times that I call and you can't get anybody, and that's when it's frustrating.
Yeah. Well, and you've been doing this long enough. It's kind of cool. Like, for people that don't know, Justin is our technician. He works on all of our lifetime labor warranty customers in the Utah store area. And for those that may be watching that are my competitors that think that lifetime labor warranty is a scam and we really don't offer it, Justin can attest to the fact that we pay for a lot of repairs just in the Utah area.
Yeah.
But what percent would you say are with the chairs that you repair, what percent are in warranty and what percent are out of warranty?
Oh man, that's a tough one.
Yeah, I should have asked you that before.
I don't know on that one. I would probably say, 50-50, maybe 60-40 for in warranty, 40% on. But usually when I see chairs that are out of warranty that are old that have been used, then usually I have to go through and explain to them about a lot of the stuff that we've already talked about today. But the repairs that are under warranty, usually it's going out and fixing very minor things,
Yeah.
Like, I'll give you an example. Today I had a warranty job that I went out on, and they had plugged the footrest in, but when they plugged it in, they had pushed one of the connectors out, and so it was throwing an error code. Manufacturer had sent them out a new footrest. But when I pulled it apart and I looked at it and I saw the connector, and I thought, oh man, they just pushed out one of the pins, and that's why it was throwing the error code. So a really quick fix, an easy fix, but it was something. And I did switch out the footrest just, so that because maybe the pin was pushed out by the connector, but something like that, would be something that I would see under warranty, and that wouldn't be something I would see not under warranty.
Yeah, well, not under warranty. We still, and I do this. I mean, we still pay for the tech visit for our customers, and sometimes the tech's got to go back a couple of times. But at least the first time, if there's what the problem is. But and sometimes people try to fix them themselves, thinking that they're trying to be kind to us to save us money, or because they think they can do it without a problem. And a lot of people can. But it can get complicated fast.
I don't recommend it. I see too many chairs that are pulled apart that are in shambles, and they keep digging and they can't figure it out, and something that we could come out and do, knowing what's going on with them. So,
well, Justin, I've seen you fix some real pickles. Like I've seen some chairs that were just a mess, and you had to there was one in particular, I can't remember how long ago this was, but you kind of had to redo almost the entire guts of the chair because so much had been screwed up by the poor customer who's just, and maybe they weren't, and if they don't have a lifetime labor warranty to lean on, a lot of them are going to try to do it themselves.
Right.
And then they're going to end up calling you and it's going to cost even more.
Yeah, it can be troublesome.
Well, yeah, you know what? There's nothing that feels better than the comfort of knowing that the technician that's working on your chairs will fix it.
Yeah.
And sometimes when we're in an area, like we have a lifetime labor warranty all around the country, sometimes there's somebody in, you know, Birmingham, Alabama, and we don't know any techs there. We just trust the network that they're a part of, and we don't know, we have no context of if this technician is good or not.
Yeah.
And it can be a challenge. It's hard to find really competent technicians.
Yeah.
But yeah, but we're grateful that we've got someone of your caliber. That's for sure.
Thank you.
Now, another question about upholstery, and
Yeah.
I'm seeing more of this. I'm seeing, when I say I'm seeing, I mean I'm hearing it from customers. They are complaining that the upholstery has shredded, and you've seen those shredded things. It looks like it looks horrible. Like it's not just a cut or one shred. The whole thing, it looks like a hula dress, and just shredded. Why does that happen to some upholsteries and not to others? Even if it's the same model from the same distributor made in the same factory, some shred and some don't.
Yeah. I would go back to where it's at. Environment would probably be the best, like that I've seen anyway. I'll notice some that are in like direct sunlight, the colors will fade and you'll have upholstery. I mean, it's just like anything else. It's, if you sit something out in the sun a lot, or, it's not in a climate controlled area. But I've also seen the flip side to where it's just regular wear and the upholstery started to come undone.
Yeah.
And some of it you'll see like oils, for instance, in your hair on the headrest and stuff.
Yeah.
That'll start to come apart and it's because we've got oils, you've got oil in your body or in your skin that's touching on the chair that's causing breakdowns over time.
So it helps to clean the chair, wipe the chair down.
Yes. Yeah, clean it. And even if you're cleaning it just with a rag, a wet rag or something, a damp cloth, just wiping it down and keeping the dust and hair and stuff off of it.
And we probably need to be better propagators of that message to our customers, because we can provide a cleaning kit, and people will ask, what do I do if it gets dirty? Well, there's tips for that, but I don't even think to myself, yeah, that oil could be, decomposing your synthetic leather.
Yeah.
And that's something we probably need to do a better job of educating about.
Yeah, you got a lot of oils, and then like I said, you've got a lot of different environmental stuff that can help to deteriorate it as well.
Well, we don't sell cleaning kits to everybody, but we do give recommendations on using like warm water and a very mild detergent. Is that a good recommendation?
Yeah, that's what I would use.
That's what you use. Yeah. You don't want to use anything strong like a Clorox spray bottle that kills cold.
No, don't be doing that. There's too many chemicals in that stuff that would cause it to wear down.
Do you ever see problem? We don't see a lot of leather chairs anymore, but do you see any problems with leather upholstery?
I don't know, not a lot. I don't see a lot of them anymore.
Yeah,
they're just synthetic.
Yeah, I think Luraco is probably one of the few companies that still has leather.
Yeah,
but there are a couple other companies as well that do have some. But I don't usually hear about leather breaking down. It's usually the upholstery, the synthetic. But there's probably different qualities of the upholstery as well. I mean, one company, and I won't mention the name, but they have two chairs that are pretty much the same chair, but with a little bit different body. And I asked them, what's the difference between this one and that one? What justifies the lower price? Oh, we use a thinner, cheaper upholstery. And we use, what was the other thing they use? I can't remember, but they use cheaper components that justify the cheaper cost.
Yeah.
And you've probably heard of like chairs that or not chairs, but product that gets sold at Costco versus they have their own model for Costco. So Costco can charge a lower price. But the quality of the build is not as good as you would find at a regular retailer at the higher price points. So it's not maybe. I know that's happening with some of the chairs, some of the companies.
Yeah, some of the manufacturers. Yeah, and it's probably true as far as what they're doing with the upholstery. I don't know. I don't see it on that end. I just see the end product and in the customer's home. So
Okay, now I've got another fella, and I think this is Oh no, this was what precipitated the question about the getting replaceable covering. A lot of those components that become deteriorated, the upholstery becomes deteriorated. You have to pretty much replace the pad.
Yeah.
But just like the liner, the nylon linen liner or whatever it is, you had to you pretty much couldn't fix it. If with the old ones, it was all stitched in.
Yeah.
And now they have removable, replaceable components. Are
Yeah.
back pads the same way?
Yeah. Yeah. Back pads are the same way. They're all zipped in. So you can replace back pads. That's probably the number one wear on that. And then, some of your other stuff that flexes and moves a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's, contact to skin. But look at it. I try to tell people, look at it like an upholstery, like if you were to buy a couch.
Yeah.
If you buy a synthetic leather couch, eventually you're going to get it to break down. That just happens over time. And it's the same thing with a massage chair. The thing with the massage chair, though, is you've got moving parts in there as well as airbags. So there's constant pressure and then release, or pressure and release, whether it's the massage mechanism or whether it's an airbag that's constantly moving that upholstery around. So, you do have it. It has wear on it.
Yeah. So the looser the upholstery, the greater the wear down, or the tighter the upholstery, the greater
I
the wear
would
down.
say, yeah. Well, most of them will have, like, they'll put fabrics where there's a lot of stretch and pressure, and then they put the upholstery where they want it to look good.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but it's still getting stretched and pulled.
Yeah, we see quite a bit of that, and maybe it's because I've been in the business so long, and we still get people calling us years later about the problem. But we do seem to be seeing more of it, and so that's why I'm wondering if maybe they're going to cheaper material, thinner material. I don't know, but there's I think there's a lot to the upholstery end of the business that I need to get in touch with, and maybe create a video about. But
yeah.
Now, I've got a question here from TK113. He or she is asking, the very expensive chairs like Human Touch or Japan, which is the better chair, or which are made better? And that's a good question. Would you say Japanese chairs are made better than Chinese chairs, or would you say the Chinese technology's caught up to where it is pretty strong on its own?
I like Chinese technology, and I like the Japanese technology. There's a particular chair that I can think of off the top of my head that I really like the way the rollers are made in that chair. That's the only chair that makes that roller. However, there are rollers and there's good massage chairs that come out of China and the United States. So it's all, again, I guess I would answer it with, it's all about personal feel and comfort.
Yeah.
What feels good for you as a consumer.
But you don't see a difference between the quality of Japanese versus Chinese versus American in terms of components? Or
No.
do you see a difference? And you don't have to tell us which is better, but do you see a difference?
No. I mean, nothing that you would make any, would sway my decision either way to buy a different chair.
Well, I would, my hypothesis would be maybe with the Chinese chairs, there's a broader array of manufacturers out there that can make cheaper chairs, and they use cheaper components, and they break down more. I think the Japanese chairs and the American chairs are maybe across the board better elevated. The whole are better.
Yeah.
But the Chinese chairs, you can get very cheap chairs, which we've talked about, and you get more expensive chairs, but the quality of the components is definitely different.
Yeah. Well, and what I'm seeing out there is I'm seeing everything that's broken. So I'm not going to people's homes that have chairs that work. Yeah. So I'm going into the houses that have chairs that are broken, and that's what I'm seeing. So that's what I'm basing it off of and I'm seeing it, I'm fixing broken chairs from America, from China, from Japan. But as far as structural quality goes, like I said, there's lots of different chairs that if I could make the chair that I wanted, I'd take a little piece from every market and make a chair. But
yeah, you had mentioned that last time, and I find that interesting because nobody knows a chair as intimately as the guy that builds it and the guy that fixes it. And you've certainly got a vantage point that the rest of us do not have. A couple of other comments here I want to read. Francisco is saying, just a suggestion, to keep my chair cool while I'm using it. And this is a California customer. Mm-hmm. I open the windows and create a draft with the outside air or I'll put a fan blowing towards the chair to keep it cool also. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, a fan would definitely help to keep it cool. I don't know what temperature he's at, but California temperature varies a lot if you're on the coast versus inland. So
Yeah.
if you can keep the chair cool, it's ideal, especially for motor use.
One other thing Francisco mentioned is when he owned a massage chair from another manufacturer, the stitching kept coming loose, and it happened a couple of times. So do you see a difference? And I don't know if you actually work with the stitching and all that kind of stuff at all. You probably don't.
No.
But any idea of how is that something that's more of just an occasional thing that's random, or is it?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's with one particular company or not that I've seen stitching start to come undone, but maybe he just got a chair that had a bad stitch or wasn't back stitched or something like that.
Yeah. Well, that's a good question, because we do see stitching come undone, and I don't really know if it's one particular price point or one particular brand or one particular company, but we do see that happening. But it's maybe more of a one-off as opposed to a really common thing. Or
I wouldn't say it's something common that I see as far as stitching goes coming apart.
Okay, and Guy is asking, how long do manufacturers typically keep repair parts available? It seems like the industry is changing, improving design so often that the inventory of parts can be a challenge even for higher end chairs. I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Some companies do struggle, especially companies that have more models that come and go. But what's your take on that, Justin?
Yeah, so I think legally, and I could be mistaken on this one, but my understanding is they're supposed to carry parts for 7 years, and that's what they're supposed to do. But that being said, there are manufacturers out there that I know that, try to go through, because it's a cost for them, right?
Yeah.
To store parts, not, to have warehouse space for it and then have inventory. So, and there's a lot of chairs coming out. There's a lot of turnaround. There's a lot of innovation in the market right now. There's touch screens and all sorts of stuff. You can control them now with your phones. You can connect them to tablets. I mean, there's all sorts of different stuff. So
yeah,
it has changed. It has changed a lot, and I think it will continue to grow.
Yeah.
And I think we've gotten to a throwaway society, where we use something and we use it for whatever, and then we throw it away and go get another one. Where, I'm in the industry of fixing stuff and repairing it, and that's kind of the era that I grew up, is when everybody fixed and, you did stuff to keep it going. But that's kind of changed over the years.
Would you say that it is, would you say that with over the time that you've been working on these chairs, would you say that the chairs have gotten better in quality? Like just in the just in the last 10 years, would you say, because does the increase in the quality of the chair justify the price increases?
I think you get more bells and whistles. Yeah. And whether or not you're a bells and whistles type of person, then now you've got Bluetooth that connects, and you've got all sorts of different things. You've got heat everywhere. You've got, different airbags and stuff. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know that I could say the quality has gotten any better or worse, but there's more, there's definitely more sensors. There's more. They've gone, you used to go from 2D to 3D to now we're 4D, massages. And so all of that stuff it keeps changing, and they keep adding different things, and they add sensors and, to keep track of everything. And it just, I don't know, there's just a lot of change in the industry.
And it gets more expensive. I mean, it's like a car. It's like the car business. I mean, remember the old cars? I had an old 67 Mustang 289 engine back when I was a teenager, and you lifted that hood and it was like a motor, a radiator, and that's it. And even I could pretend I knew something about it. But now
there's a lot. It's a lot more to it. So I think that's part of the reason for the cost. And they're spending a lot on, innovation and that. But as far as, the motors and stuff and a lot of the stuff, I mean, if I took a motor out of a machine that was 10 years old and held them up side by side, you wouldn't be able to pick them out.
Yeah.
There's not enough difference between them. It's just, there's a lot more stuff going on inside.
Yeah, just stuff. Well, TK is saying it's pretty sad if you pay 10 grand or more and parts are available for only 7 years. I would, yes, that is sad, but I think it's 7 years as a mandate. I think companies keep them for a lot longer than that. Like, for example, the old Inada distributor, which is now Furniture for Life, they were selling Dreamwaves back in, man, that was the first chair I ever saw really take off as a popular chair. And that was, what, 15 years ago?
Yeah.
And they still have some parts, even though the factory itself doesn't even provide those parts. They still have inventory for some of those parts.
Yeah. Well, I've ordered in the last couple of weeks, I've ordered parts for chairs that are pushing 20 years old. Jeez. That I've been able to get parts for. So it's still out there. But yeah, you do have to look. But I mean, to his point, it's true. But also, if they want to keep and maintain lower costs, which we're all looking for, they can't mandate that they have to keep parts for 20 plus years. Yeah. I mean, that would just, can you imagine the warehouse space that it'd take, especially if you've got a bunch of different chairs and that. Yeah. And I think one of the things too, there's lots of them now when they're coming out of these factories, a lot of the parts, are interchangeable. So a lot of them, if they're coming out of the same factory, different chairs, even with different names on them, they've got interchangeable parts. So I think longevity will be longer with that.
Well, and that probably applies more, in my mind, it applies more to the top factories because they're good factories. They create chairs for a lot of different distributors here in the US.
Yeah.
And they have to have some parts compatibility to
right.
Because they also don't want to carry parts for every separate model that they make.
Right. And then I could open up chair after chair and show you the insides, and we could look at them and say, oh yeah, this one looks really similar, even though it's got a different sticker on it. So it is true that happens.
I've got another question about numbers for you.
Yeah.
And this is like a percent. What percent of chairs that you fix could have been prevented? The problems could have been prevented by a better care for the chair. And in other words, not doing the things that increase failure rates.
So are they talking like compounding problems?
Well, no, just like when you go out to fix a chair, and you see the chair, how many of those chairs can you look at and go, oh, these guys have been abusing this chair, or this chair has got this problem, or someone's too, overweight for this chair, or whatever? Can you tell? Are you able to discern that?
That one's a tough one. I would probably say, well, if it's a part failure that wasn't, that was an actual failure of a defect in the part, that one's, there's not a lot you can do on that one. But there's chairs that continue to be used in that are ran that continue to break. That's what I'm saying, compounding. They end up wearing more parts out and could have been caught or prevented before then. So if you wanted a percentage, I don't know, I'd say 25% maybe.
25% or what?
Yeah.
Are from user abuse?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. And it could be higher too. I see kids all the time, where they'll have, friends over and parties and stuff. And the chairs will end up, a foot massage or something will be broken in half because somebody jumped in it and they were fighting over it and ripped the remote out or something. So I see, I see stuff like that. But I would say preventable, with knowing stuff would be, I don't know, I'd say 20-25%.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's a good number. I appreciate hearing that. So there is a lot that can go wrong with a chair that's unrelated to being abused.
Yes.
And that's good to know. Now, I just thought of something. Some of these chairs come with fuses, extra fuses.
Yeah.
Some I've even seen like extra screws, and my delivery guy has no idea where the screw goes. What do you suggest? What do you think about things like that? Do you think people should hold on to those fuses and those extra screws, or
So the fuses, well, there's some of the chairs. So there's a couple of chairs that will have two fuses in the transformer, and then on the back by where the cord plugs in, they'll have an additional fuse. If it's just the additional fuse there in the back, and you say your chair's not getting power, and you've got power at the outlet, and you're turning it on, I would suggest that I would definitely suggest, you can pop that fuse out. It's just an inline fuse, and look at it and see if it's blown or not and switch it out. But that would be the sum total of it. I wouldn't go in any deeper.
Yeah.
Because there are internal fuses, but then you got to start digging, but you got to know what you're looking for and have a voltmeter to test them.
Yeah. Okay. TK's asking, who has majority market share in the market, number one and number two? I really don't know that answer. I would probably say, and you might know this from the chairs that you repair, but I'd say Osaki.
Yeah, I'd say Osaki's number one.
And then number two might be what, like maybe Infinity or
yeah, probably.
Yeah, I think that is. But those numbers they're somewhat skewed because it's not because there's the factors that determine that, like how much they market.
Yeah,
and like and how they what channels of distribution they have, but yeah, I would say Osaki's probably the biggest one right now.
Yeah,
just for sheer numbers. Yeah. And Infinity's a big company too. They got chairs everywhere, and spa stores and furniture stores, and actually Cosia has quite a bit of market reach as well, but I don't know how it compares to.
I don't think that'd be above Infinity.
Yeah. Well, and I'm sure there's also companies that are easier to work with to get a chair fixed. And I don't even want to get into that because that could create some friends and enemies. But there's some companies, and there's companies that are good that go through a phase where things are kind of sketchy, and then they correct it. And I've seen that. Good companies that all of a sudden, hey, what's going on? They're not fixing anything, or they're not responding to our customers, and we find out that they're going through turnover in their department, their support department. One company that I think of in particular, who we have mentioned, I remember earlier on, they struggled keeping up with the tech support. It was almost like the sales were the number one priority. Tech support was maybe second or third, but they have turned it around huge. And I found the response much better now than it used to be. And maybe, it can change. At one company you could say is good, and then you find that, oh, what's happening? They're not so good right now.
Yeah, no, that's for sure.
The companies that are led well, that have good leadership will fix that stuff. It
starts at the top and trickles down.
Really does. Are there any other questions that people have? I'm very pleased with the comments today and questions. Thank you everybody for pitching in. Does anyone else have a question or comment that they want to ask Justin while we have him on the phone? Because we're not bringing him back for part 3.
You're done.
Well, no, you're done. I feel bad taking you away from your work, but your insights are so valuable, and this is stuff that people don't typically see. We don't, publicly discuss it.
Yeah,
this is great stuff, Justin. You've really, I think, enlightened us quite a bit. And of course, we'll be able to continue to see this on our YouTube channel, on our Facebook page. You can see this video, and then the audio file will be stripped, and we will that'll be on our podcast, so you can listen to it in your car or listen to it while you're...
Do you respond, Dr. Weidner, to questions when people ask them, or
like on
here YouTube, or just on your platforms?
Oh yeah, all the time.
Oh, do you? Okay.
All the time. And sometimes it doesn't have to be a question; it just be a comment.
Yeah. I'm just saying, when I'm thinking out loud, just that, you've got people that may come up with an idea or a question later on that they could post and maybe get a response back.
Oh yeah. And if it's something that you can help me with that I don't know the answer to, that would be great.
Yeah, for sure.
But you can also listen to this on our podcast, which is, and you can find our podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. But feel free to go there and subscribe, and you'll be updated just like on YouTube. If you subscribe to this video on YouTube, you'll be updated every time there's a new video out or a new podcast out if you subscribe to the podcast. And now here, Okay, so here's two more questions before we go. Who
Okay.
has the best warranty for parts and labor? I would
You've
say
got to
Sinka or
answer that one.
Fujiyoki. What's
What's
that?
that? Oh, I
I would
said
say
you'd have to answer that one because I don't keep track of what the warranty is on stuff.
Well, I would say it's Sinka, which is now part of Fujiyoki. They have 5 and 5. They have 5-year parts, 5 years labor, and you don't see that very often. 5 and 5. Usually, it's 1 and 3. When I say 1 and 3, it's
Yeah.
labor parts. 1 year labor, 3 years parts. Sometimes it's 1 and 2. Other times it's 3 and 5. But 5 and 5 is the best I've seen. But again, I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Tommy Boy. There's that
Yeah.
one scene where the guy wants to know what the warranty is for his auto part. He says, "Well, I could crap in this box and give it to you and say it's got a warranty, but what good is that?" And
Yeah.
the message there is the warranty really is only as good as the company that backs it up.
Right.
And so if the company does not have a reputation of backing up their warranty, they can throw
Yeah.
any number they want out, and you're going to have problems. But
Yeah.
I would say
The companies I deal with are good with their warranties, and I'm usually across the board on that. So, but I don't. That's the problem. Is I used to try to keep track of everything, and then I'd misquote somebody, and they'd call me back and say, "Well, the technician told me that it had a 5-year warranty on parts, and these manufacturers are manufacturing so many chairs and that I don't put my foot in my mouth anymore, because then I feel bad if I give them false information." So I
well,
always will refer them back and say, either check, usually it's in the owner's manual that'll have the information, or check with the manufacturer and just make sure.
yeah,
On
yeah,
the
and some companies have multiple chairs that have multiple different. Each chair has a different warranty.
Yes, yeah, and that's
So
my problem is I'm working on all of them, and I don't want to, assume that they're all the way across the board. So I've stopped doing that.
yeah,
I'll
yeah.
just refer them back to their manual or the actual warranty company, whoever they bought it from.
Well, the warranty is important,
Yeah,
but it's only as good as the company that's backing it up.
right.
Another question we have here is, what's the chair brand? This is a dollar menu. What's the chair brand you find that you work the least on? That's a tough one because some companies don't sell a lot of chairs, and others sell tons.
Yeah, that's a problem. I'm working on all of the bad ones, and I'm working on them across the board. So I don't see the ones that are good. That's what people always ask me that. Well, how many chairs do you repair versus how many are sold? Well, I don't have the sales numbers, and so I don't know what to. You're talking to the guy that's seeing all the bad ones, so I don't know that they sold 200 chairs and I fixed 3 of them.
Yeah, yeah.
Information I just don't have, so I can't make it. I know you said you were going to start tracking your stuff a little bit better to keep an idea. Maybe good to give customers feedback, after you've got some history on it. But
yeah, we need a couple of years. A couple of years. We're going to need at least. We're almost done our first year of tracking this, but that is a very good. That is a good question. And I think more and more, that's not stuff that gets revealed, right?
No.
Like what company wants to tell you, oh yeah, 25% of our chairs have a problem in the first 4 years. Nobody wants to hear that. So, and they don't tell us that.
Yeah. It's not going to be information that they're going to release ever, So yeah, I mean, that would be to look for somebody out there that's done it, but I don't know the sales numbers, so I can't make a assessment on, what is being repaired and what's not. I don't know.
Yeah, that is a tough one. And you don't know how many repairs are relative to the number of sales. You might have 50 chairs that are fixed, but there might be 1,000 chairs sold. So the numbers aren't always great.
Nope,
but
I don't know them. So
now David says, and he's saying, I'm disappointed that you and Justin are so political in discussing particular companies. And I get what David's saying. And sometimes I want to say stuff, but I have gotten in trouble in the past by saying stuff that I felt was a true opinion in an article that I wrote or a video that I made. And one company threatened to not let me sell any of their chairs anymore.
Yeah.
even though we sell a lot of their chairs. And so I am a little more political, yes, if you want to call it political, but I'm a little bit more guarded. I just don't want to. I don't want to upset the cart.
Yeah.
But if you have any questions about a particular company and how we rate them in terms of their warranty support and availability and part support, call me. I'll gladly talk about it one-on-one with you. But on a public forum like this, and Justin, you probably feel the same. Like you fix everybody's chairs. If all of a sudden you were to say, "Yeah, this company, they suck," then, guess what? You're not going to get any more calls from that company.
Right. Well, and then it changes too. Like you were saying earlier, that some may have a moment that they have some struggle.
Yeah.
And there's others of them that will have a moment where they won't. So
yeah,
I know a lot of the people that do the phone calls, there's a lot of abuse there, that people are getting yelled at and stuff like that. And people are frustrated, rightfully so, that their stuff's not working. But, it's all in all, everybody's got to take care of one another.
Yeah.
Like you said, it comes from the top.
It does. And I understand David's frustration. I know David wants to get more information out of us, but Dave, you can call me. You and I have talked in the past. I'll gladly share some insights to you. But again, it's very fluid. And most of the companies that are the big distributors in the United States are run by very competent and good people.
Yeah.
And sometimes sales outsell, they outsell chairs. They sell way more than they can handle. And then they realize, holy cow, we've got to upgrade our tech department because we can't keep up now with the problems. And so it's kind of this constant change, and it's very fluid is what I'm saying. And so it is hard to say.
Do you know if he's in the Utah market or not?
No, Dave is not. He's in the United States, but he's not in Utah.
Because I was going to say, and I could talk to him too about it, but it's something, that I do know that if he buys a chair or gets something from you, and I don't know if he has in the past, he'll definitely be taken care of.
Yeah, thanks, Justin. I appreciate that plug. I didn't ask you to say it, but thanks. TK's asking, I live in rural Indiana. How do I go about getting service if I need it? Great question. And we get questions like that all the time because our lifetime labor warranty covers the entire country. And so sometimes there are places that are hard to get at, but we tap into about 7 different networks of technicians. And usually at least one will have a technician that covers your area. As a matter of fact, we've sold a number of chairs to Indiana, and I know in the past we have serviced chairs for rural customers. So, but sometimes there's a travel surcharge involved, and in our lifetime labor warranty, we pay 75% of the travel surcharge. They usually charge $1 a mile past the 30 miles. So, anyways. But you can reach out to me. Anybody want to reach out to me? My number, my phone number is 801-651-2026. I may hate myself for, be angry at myself for giving out my number. But you can call me or reach out to our customer, through our own support forms on the website, and we can find out for you pretty quick where a tech is close to you. And Sahel is asking, what is the best way to take care of the upholstery for longevity? And, we just talked about that, Sahel. You may have missed the discussion, but Justin, you want to just touch on that again?
Yeah, I just keeping it clean and in a good environment. So not direct sunlight, somewhere that it's got, temperature controlled and just cleanliness. Those are going to be the 3 things that I would stress the most.
Well, and the thing that I learned from talking to you was the oils from your skin.
Yeah.
The oil from your skin can decompose the naugahyde or the synthetic leather quicker. And I never even put that together, 2 and 2 together like that.
Yeah.
But that's
mainly it's going to be your head. But
head and neck, right. But Sahel, to your question, I recommend wiping down the chair regularly. And we talked about this with warm water and a very mild detergent. Wipe it down, especially where the oil is. And don't just wipe it down when you see a scuff mark or dirty mark, but you can wipe it down. But also use a vacuum cleaner and clean out the foot mechanism, the foot massage mechanism. A lot of crap accumulates in that area because some people go in with dirty socks, dirty feet, or even shoes, and a lot of sand will aggregate there or congregate there. And when you go in with your feet and have the rollers rubbing on your feet with all those pebbles and dust and, whatever, it's going to wear the linen down pretty quick.
Yeah.
So I would say vacuum
the
out
sides too, between the the sides and just your side rails on the left and right, and then the gap between that and the chair seat.
Oh yeah.
Vacuum and clean that out regularly too. I'll find all sorts of spare change in it. I'll find, whoever was eating peanut M&Ms and whatever else all, stuck down in there. So yeah, clean that out too.
Yeah, Stan was talking about that last week, how much crap he sees in
seeds, and there's a lot. So yeah, keep it out, and then I would try not to eat in the chair. Maybe have a drink or something, but don't be snacking and getting all that stuff down in there.
And we're talking to adults. Don't let your kids don't let your kids and grandkids do it either.
Oh, that's even worse.
When our family is gone, like this summer, we had the family here for a week. Holy mackerel! The house was like a tornado.
Yeah.
But the chair, which everybody sits in, everybody loves a massage chair. Oh my goodness, we had Cheerios and M&Ms and just broken taco chips all on the side, and that, you got to vacuum that out too.
Clean it out. Keep it
clean it out. And I think that's it. Anybody else have another question? This has been wonderful response from everybody. Thank you for participating. We will have our next broadcast and podcast next month. I'm working right now on scheduling it. It may be with a company that just brought out a new model that we're going to be talking about. That's tentatively who we're going to have, and I'll let you know on my digital newsletter or on my industry update, or just reach out to me if you want to know who it is. But we are very, very grateful. And again, go to the podcast and download this. The podcast for this will be available probably tomorrow or the next day. The podcast for part 1 will be up tomorrow. But you go look up our podcast and subscribe. But and please always feel free to reach out to us with any questions. We want to answer your questions. We want to answer. We want you to make an educated decision when you buy a chair, or if you own one now and you're having second thoughts. Maybe there's some things that we can help you with, either deciding to keep your chair or what you might need to do. TK just asked, do you know if the Human Touch X chair is leather? It is not leather, but I believe one of the panels is, or one of the chair pads, because the chair has interchangeable side panels and interchangeable pads, and I believe one of the pads is leather. We just got we've got one in our Utah showroom and our Arizona showroom so far, and I believe one of them got the leather pads. So I believe that's the right answer, but feel free to reach out to me and I can find out definitively for you. But Justin, thank you. You've been so gracious with your time, and thank you for being here and sharing your insights and wisdom. This has been a very, very well received broadcast. Very well received.
Well, people have got questions and they reach out to you. Let me know if you can't answer them, and I can help out.
Yeah, I'll pass them on to you. Yep. And if I don't know the answer, and there's a lot of stuff I don't know.
Power, so that's what they need.
It really is, and that's what we try to do. We try to educate people so they can make good decisions and not get ripped off. And anyways, but thank you so much, Justin. Thanks everybody for attending today. We're grateful to have you.
All righty, have a good one.
Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Hey, thanks. Bye.